When it comes to working in Revit, one of the most annoying things is when something is missing and you cannot seem to find it. You know it should be there, you know it should be visible in view, but for some reason it's just not there. Well, because of this issue, I decided to create this video, which is going to be the ultimate Revit visibility troubleshooting guide. We're going to go through a 21-point checklist, so if something is missing in Revit, you're definitely going to find it. Let's go. Okay, now quickly before we jump into Revit, I would just like to ask you to check out my website balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to link it up just below this video in the description and then also up in the cards above. That's where I upload all of my Revit courses, where I take the extra time to go slowly, step by step, and explore all of Revit's interesting topics. So if you're interested, please check it out. Okay, so now without any further ado, let's jump straight into Revit. Now, the first few things that we want to check are going to be down here on this bar. So what I like to do first is just to check the temporary hide isolate and to see if something needs to be revealed, if something needs to be reset. In this case, we don't really have anything hidden, so we can leave that out. Then we have the reveal hidden elements, and then you can see what's been hidden in this view. So you can see we do have some elements that are hidden, but if none of these are a problem for us, I can just turn this off. Then after that, the next thing that you want to check is going to be the detail level. So sometimes in the different detail levels, it's going to appear like some things are missing. So I suggest you just toggle through coarse, medium, and fine level of detail just to see if something changes and if something perhaps appears or disappears that's supposed to be there, for example. And then finally, we have the option to check the visual styles. So what they like to do is, this is especially useful in floor plans, elevations, sections. If something is not there, you can just go and set this to wireframe, and it might reveal something that might be hidden behind a different element. So for example, if I have like a floor or a wall in front of something, by setting this to transparent, it's going to reveal that. So for example, here you can see when this is transparent, I can see like this line of the chair or something like that. So it is going to show you what's hidden behind different Revit elements. Okay, moving forward, the next thing that you want to check is the object styles dialog. Now this is going to be project wide, so if something is missing in all of the views, it might be because of this. So if you go here to the manage tab, we have the settings panel, and there we have the object styles. Now usually you can't really turn off the visibility of something in object styles. However, you can change the line color to make it seem set at halftone or even set to white, so it's not going to appear in certain views. So you can just go through this list and see if something is out of place. So for example, here I have actually used this dialog to set the furniture systems, and generic models to gray, so they appear as halftone. So this is something that you can just go through and see if something has been changed, and if something is out of order. If something is set to white, then it's just like somebody set it to invisible when you have your regular views. So this is something worth exploring. Now moving forward, let's go here to the view properties. So whenever nothing is selected in the view, the properties panel is going to display view properties, and it's just going to show the view type here. So for 3D, it's going to say 3D view. For floor plan, it's just going to say floor plan. And this is where we have a lot of our visibility settings. So the first dialog that I like to check is going to be the visibility graphics dialog. You can go here to edit, and there's quite a bit of things to check here. So for example, first, make sure that the visibility has been turned on for everything. So you can go here and you can scroll down and see if something has been unchecked. In this case, we can see that the mass is set to be unchecked, the parts are set to be unchecked, and the topography is set to or the visibility of the topography has been turned off. So this is something just that you should kind of go through and make sure that nothing is out of order. Moving forward, on the other side here we have the halftone settings. So for example, here the furniture has been set to halftone, so this is something else that you might want to explore and just make sure that everything is all right. And then finally we have the detail level. And you can actually customize the detail level. So for example, in this situation, you can see that the walls don't really show the wall layers. And let's say I want to see the wall layers. This is set to define level of detail, so why aren't they showing? Well, here in the Visibility Graphics Overrides menu, when I scroll down to walls, you can see that this has been override to say coarse. If I just change it to view, or by view, and hit apply, okay, now you can see we have the visible wall layers here. So that's something that might be affecting your visibility as well. Let's then go back to Visibility Graphics Overrides. Now this is not the only thing that you should check. First of all, make sure that this kind of main toggle is checked on, but then we also have annotation categories, and you want to go through those if some annotation elements are missing or they're presented in halftone or something else. We can do the same thing for analytical categories, imported categories, and then finally we have filters and design options. Moving forward, we have the view range. Now view range can in a lot of cases be responsible for something that's missing. This is the view range, and I'm not going to go too much into this just because it's a very complicated topic and I already have a video on this topic. So I'm just going to link that up in the cards above so you can go to that video and you can learn more about the view range settings and why something might be missing because they're set wrong. Moving forward, for sections, for example, we have this clip. So if I open up a section and then here in the view properties, you're going to see that we have the far clip offset. Now something might not be visible because of this far clip offset. So if I go back here and if I change this to be really close and go to this section, you can see some of the elements are now missing. So you can go here to the far clip offset, you can change the value here, or you can go to and set it to no clip and then click OK, and now it's going to display way more things. So this is something that you might want to explore when it comes to your sections. Going back to our first level floor plan, something else that you might want to check here in the properties is going to be the phasing. So if you're using phasing in the project, it might not show some elements because of the phase or the phase filter. So if I change this to existing, well, nothing is going to be visible because the phase is set to existing and we don't really have anything existing in this project. Also, the phase filter might be affecting this, so you can toggle through these settings and just see if something is going to change something on your view. Then, similar to phasing, we have the design options, so you can find the design options here, and then you can toggle through those and see if something is missing or if something has been changed. So you can check that as well. Then moving forward, we have the discipline parameters. So here we have the discipline. This is set to architectural. If we have a different discipline, it might show things differently. So if I try to change this, for example, to electrical and then hit apply, you can see that a lot of these elements are going to show in halftone. So that's just because this is a discipline setting. It's not something that we can change anywhere. It's just part of the whole kind of built-in discipline system of Revit. So just make sure that the discipline has been set correctly. If you want to keep both disciplines, you can have two different views set to two different disciplines. Then we have the view crop. So for example, if I go and create something here, so let's place some walls. If I select these walls and just move them, you can see they start disappearing at a certain point and now they're completely gone. Well, this might be because of the view crop. So here, if I go back to the view properties, scroll down to crop view, here you can see that this view is cropped. However, the crop region is set to be invisible. So now I can see the crop region. I can extend it so I can see that wall, or I can just turn off the crop altogether, and now we can see all of those elements. Now, something similar would be the section box. So for example, if the section box is turned on, it might not show some elements. So for example, here you can see now that wall here is missing, and I just have to move the section box. Now, in some cases, I like to actually hide my section box. And if somebody is using the project who isn't familiar with the fact that I use a section box and that I have hidden that section box, they might not know where that element has been why that element is missing. So you can just go here to reveal hidden elements, and then if you see the section box, you can move it, or if you want, you can just turn off the section box altogether, just to make sure that you can see all of the elements that you want to see. And finally, we have the mask settings. So if you have some sort of masking in your project, it might not be showing because the mask settings. So here you can set this to show mask by view settings, or just kind of override it and set it to show mask. So regardless of the view settings, it is going to display the masking. Moving forward, something that is really difficult to figure out in some cases is groups. So for example, if I go here and find these walls, let's actually add a window or something there. Okay, so we have this set of walls with a window, and let's say I want to group this. So I'm just going to select it and turn it into a group. Okay, so here for this group, if I use the tab key and select one of the items like this wall, and here I'm going to get the option to exclude this from this group instance. So if I click that, that's going to be missing from this group. However, if I go here to reveal hidden elements, it's not going to display that element. So I might not realize why that's missing. So you have to select the group, and then when you select it, it's actually going to show it in this blue kind of highlighted view. And then if you want to actually bring it back, you can just use the tab key, and then you can restore that. Now let me just ungroup this, and I'm going to show you another very bad way to hide things in Revit. So here, if I go to the Modify tab and then go to the Linework tool, we actually have the ability to use invisible lines. So I can actually use invisible lines and turn this completely invisible. So this is not going to appear over here at all, and we actually have to select it to see if it's there. So one way to see if something is missing is simply to go here and set this to shaded. Now you also might need to change the detail level. So here, if I set this to coarse and shaded, it is going to display this. But again, using the Linework tool is usually a very bad way of hiding things. It's just for very specific situations. Now I have just brought this back to the original display. And another way that you can hide elements is with a detail item, which is actually a masking region. So if I place a masking region over this, it's just not going to be visible. However, in this case, this can be fixed. So if you just go here to wireframe, it's going to basically look through that masking region so you can see your elements. So this is one way to avoid the masking region visibility issue. And if you don't know, masking regions are available over here on detail items. So here we have the masking regions, and then you can just mask whatever you want. And if you don't want to see these edges, you can just select it and go to edit boundary, select all lines and set them to invisible lines, and then it's going to be completely invisible, and it's going to cause all sorts of issues if you've hidden something that you don't want to hide. And finally, I just want to talk about sections and elevation markers. So these section markers, in some cases they might go invisible when you change the scale. So here, if I change the scale to 1 to 200, you can see that they're gone. Now the reason for this is because there's actually a setting in these elements. So when you select your section, you can see it says hide at scales coarser than, and then in this case is 1 to 100. So you might want to change this to 1 to 200, and then when I set this to 1 to 200, it's still going to be visible. So it's only showing this section, not the other one, because I didn't change it to for the other section, and this is an instance parameter, so it's only going to affect the sections where you have made that change. So there we go. I hope you have learned something new about how to set up visibility, or how to figure out visibility issues inside of Revit. Now, this entire checklist, I'm going to attach it as a PDF on my Patreon page. So if you don't know, I have a Patreon page where I upload all of my Revit project files from my tutorials, like this office building project file. If you want to access all of those and the checklist PDF, I'm going to link that up in the cards above, and also it's going to be down in the links below this video. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.